AskReddit by that one dude 44,444. Who do you believe is literally evil? Those guys who raped, tortured, and killed Junko Furuta. https://en.wikipedia.org/murder_of_Junko_Furuta . Someone found one of those guys' Twitter accounts a couple years ago and it was just posts of political crap. Like the guy's just living his normal life using social media and has had a seemingly normal time on earth. It makes me sick. He changed his last name I think, but people were posting Junko's face all over his posts. I remember translating it all through Google and everybody was going after him. I hope he never escapes it. Ian Brady and Myra Hindley. The tape recording of one of their young victims crying for her mum while being tortured is awful. They refused to say where they buried Keith Bennett and that boy's poor mum died without knowing where he was. I hope they are forever being tortured in hell. I'm glad they kept Ian Brady alive and suffering as long as they possibly could. There's a rather detailed description on Wikipedia, I think, of his only wish being to die, and him being kept alive 4 years in prison with increasingly declining health. It's the sort of thing where you know it was personal. I knew a guy who retired from an investment firm before he was 40. I inquired if I could get a job at the firm. He told me if you can look a woman in the eyes, who scrubbed floors all her life, and tell her that you can quadruple her life savings by investing in a stock you know is worthless, then you could work there. I felt sleazy just listening to him. I lost all respect for him. He preyed on poor desperate people, and ruined their lives, so he could retire in his 30s. I found out from a friend that the investment firm was a boiler room fly-by-night scam. Everyone who worked there was taken out in handcuffs. That's literally what the Wolf of Wall Street did. Sadly, he is glorified by some in our society and it is sick. Ian Watkins from the band Lost Prophets. Have you read the court transcript? I can't believe the levels of depravity described therein. Gertrude Banaszewski, the caregiver of Sylvia Likens. Her story still gives me chills. Made me sick to my stomach. I don't wish death on anybody, but I had a smile when I read that all these killers died pretty young, excluding Gertrude, one of them of lung cancer at the age of 21. Karma is a bitch, motherfucker. He's dead now, but Saddam Hussein's eldest son Uday Hussein was one of the most sadistic, cruel, violent and predatory humans in existence. He tortured, sexually abused and murdered countless people out of pure spontaneous rage and bloodthirst. His wiki article is super dark and full of insane stories. Under the section partying, it describes how he'd force his friends to stand against a wall and consume drinks of 90% alcohol and drugs in 10 minutes, and punishment for not doing so involved shaving your eyebrows off, beatings and whippings. Definitely one of those kinds of people who actually deserve to be killed. He was such a crazy psycho that even Saddam wouldn't let him hold power. His second son was the expected heir, and he explicitly told Uday that his brother was off limits and one of the few people he couldn't kill. Health insurance denying treatments that your doctors have personally recommended. Health insurance companies insisting that you try other treatments first, or insisting that you work with a network doctors who can't be seen for 6-8 months, intentionally delaying your proper treatment. It's fucking murder as far as I'm concerned. I could keep listing ways that the health insurance industry is pure evil. My mother was just diagnosed with a very serious condition that if not treated will make her go blind. Her insurance is refusing to pay for her treatment. She's 73 and will now owe $1,500 each month so that she doesn't go blind despite having Medicare. This is our system. Anyone who practices hardcore https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/hardcore . Peter Scully, Ian Watkins, Josh Duggar, that ilk. Literal human mildew in my eyes. I like imagining remorse and redemption arcs for people. I like imagining someone who's committed a heinous crime trying their best to reform and atone for what they've done, even if they know they won't succeed and some will never forgive them. As long as they at least see they've done wrong. This is where I draw the line. I don't care how remorseful or regretful you are. OMG, I wish I didn't Google that. The Sackler family. Richard Sackler specifically would be the more correct answer in my opinion. The rest of them are greedy and borderline sociopathic, sure, but I think few of them truly understood the ramifications of what Richard was orchestrating. Richard intentionally orchestrated the opioid epidemic and he knew exactly what he was doing and what the outcome would be. He banked the future of his company on creating a legion of opiate addicts that had no idea they were becoming opiate addicts. That is evil. Ted Bundy. I still find it insane that the judge, who heard all the evidence against him and the cruel and evil things he did to countless women, told him after his sentencing that he could have become a great lawyer if he'd just gone another way. Bundy was a deranged bastard, and he still managed to charm the judge after being a complete narcissist psycho in the courtroom. David Miscavige. The leader of the Church of Scientology. Cult of Scientology. Yeah, how many years has his wife been out of the public eye? 16 years now? It blows my mind as that is public knowledge, but the authorities don't really seem to care because they say she's fine. Nothing shady there. Nope. Edited to convey my thoughts more clearly. Kenneth Copeland, the mega pastor who looks like a demon wearing a person suit. Nothing about that man seems remotely good and I have no idea how he continues to convince people to hand over millions of dollars. I've been trying to think of others but Copeland keeps coming to mind. That interview where he's asked about his private jet is one of the creepiest recordings ever. Good on the interviewer for not running away from that psycho like I would have. Edit. Here's the video. https://yahoo.be/9ltf34mrsfi close bracket. Kenneth Copeland. He looks evil, too. Seriously, he's freaking terrifying. There are cartoon villains less convincing than he is. If you took the trope deranged preacher who fleeces people's money to the tune of millions while literally being possessed by demons and gave it the most ridiculous interpretation possible, that caricature still wouldn't do Kenneth Copeland justice. Pol Pot. He single-handedly made the life expectancy in Cambodia drop from like 80 or something normal to 18 years. He was also a hypocrite in who was to be purged, as he had all of those traits earlier. In 1969 the life expectancy in Cambodia was 46 and it dropped to 14 in 1978. https://www.macrotrends.net/countries/Cambodia/life-expectancy. Human traffickers. Every person who has filed a report that basically said, "We have investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoing." Joseph Mengele. Shiro Ishii. Deleted. That Hitler guy was a real jerk. Deleted. Her son was a school friend of my son's. Every time I came in contact with her at the school, birthday parties, or play dates, she always seemed completely normal and put together. You never know who's truly hiding their evil. King Leopold of Belgium started the biggest genocide in history and it's not even well documented because it happened in Africa. 25 million plus Africans killed. Epstein. You just know. Lol, we don't just know, the evidence is public and at this point completely uncontroversial. This comment reads like saying, I have a bad feeling about this Hitler guy, something about him gives me the willies. Karla Homolka, aka Leanne Teal, who currently lives somewhere near Montreal. Jim Bob Duggar and his cretin of a son, Josh Duggar. Kenneth Copeland, ironically an evangelist. Any prosperity preacher, whether on TV or not, goes back to radio days. If you give enough money to God, he will perform miracles for you. By God, of course, they mean themselves. Taking money from poor people by using their ignorance. The Sackville Baggins. Lotho, anyway. Lobelia gained her redemption when she clocked Saruman's lackey with her umbrella, in defense of the Shire. My father. He's a woman beater and a rapist. Fuck that guy. I despise him. Jim Jones. People who abuse children. Child and animal abusers. I watched some YouTube doc about a popular furry dude who was robustly accused of sexually and physically assaulting his dog and other, can't remember the name. Terrible pose. The posts that were linked to him about said acts were chilling. Was it Kiro? The guys he was enthusing about it with were 10x worse. I don't even wanna type out the things they bragged about doing. Warren Jeffs. I see a lot of cult leaders in this thread, but I think Warren and his dad Rulon are a cut above the others. The higher-ups of Intuit. They were supposed to make it free for low-income Americans to file their taxes. They purposefully made their websites a confusing maze to trick low-income people into paying for a service they were legally entitled to get for free. They lobbied the government to make sure that they stayed in partnership with them instead of making a separate website for filing. Phone scammers. They attack the vulnerable without remorse. Anyone on the boardroom of a cable news company in America. You look outside and you see our society on the brink of collapse, and yet you choose to present this as what's important to Americans? Infotainment and consolidation need to go. We need more voices, and some of those have to be antagonistic to your sponsors, too. We need a fairness doctrine 2.0. Eric Harris, from Columbine, was a pure psychopath. Enjoyed killing and was totally remorseless. It's mental illness, but it results in truly evil behavior. Henry Kissinger. It's his 100th birthday next week. I think there are two types of evil: those who believe they are good, but unknowingly commit evil acts, and those that knowingly commit evil actions purely for their own benefit. I think the latter is certainly more evil, at least from a societal viewpoint. Individual actions that hurt others and only benefit a few people are seen as being evil. So to answer the question, that one mega church pastor that owns like 4 private jets, paid for by the money he rakes in from his followers, that guy is fucking evil. Anyone exploiting the poor for their own personal gain, and lying that it's for the benefit of those poor people, is truly evil. Especially using religion as a tool of exploitation. Scientologists. I one time has a Scientologist in a laundromat in the middle of the night come up to me to complain about the HBO documentary, and he literally said, "They said we can't leave, but I can leave anytime I want to. Cults and amp. Intense religion does stuff to the brain." I guess Putin has to be up there. Joel Osteen and amp. Preacher Kenneth Copeland and amp. Every single pastor who operates a mega church. Please note that I am not saying religion is evil. I am saying the people who abuse people's beliefs to gain wealth. US Army soldiers Paul Cortez, James Barker, Jesse Spielman, Brian Howard, and Stephen Green gang raped and murdered a 14-year-old Iraqi girl named Abir al-Janabi in 2006. US Army soldiers had been sexually harassing her for weeks beforehand. They broke her mother's arms as she struggled to get to Abir, then murdered both her parents and her 6, 9, and 11-year-old siblings while 2 of the soldiers were raping Abir in the next room. She struggled more when she heard the gunshots, but they kept raping her. Then they shot her in the head and set her on fire. One of the soldiers later described it as awesome. Of course, that's just one of the war crimes we know about. The war on terror is still going.